been meaning for a while to do some proper video reviews for some of the games that I've played through for my Let's Plays, and I've never quite got around to it. Since the Nintendo Power retrospectives are kind of on hold at the moment, let's get some of these videos knocked out and out of the way. For the benefit of those who don't want to watch a massive Let's Play to see if they want to play something. And this time, I'm starting with Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, specifically focusing on the PSP version of the game, though I'll give a couple quick notes on the more recent version for PC and Switch. It would be flip to say that Tactics Ogre walked, so Final Fantasy Tactics and the similar, tactical RPGs that came after could run. Certainly those later games innovated on concepts in their presentation and game mechanics that Tactics Ogre introduced or innovated themselves on its own. However, the PSP version of the game, which was just released under the full title of Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, and released with the Wheel of Fate subtitle in Japan, is revisiting that earlier title, and it sought to add some quality of life features that the earlier release lacked. Some of these are very helpful, others, to a degree, less so than, the other ones. So, story-wise, Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together is a story that is inspired, somewhat, by the ethnic violence and attempted genocide in Serbia and Bosnia in the mid-90s, which Matsuda has cited as being a significant influence on the story. The game is specifically set in the country of Valeria, within the Tactics Ogre universe, or Ogre Battle universe, adjacent to the country of Zenobia. There we follow the main character Denim, his sister Katia, and their friend Vice, who are members of the Wallstanian ethnic minority, which are being subjected to persecution. I believe Wallister is also the term I think they use as well. Subject to prosecution by the members of the government of the Kingdom of Galgistan. The three are members of a resistance movement, and after a group of knights from the neighboring country of Zenobia join the cause, things start to turn in the Resistance's favor. However, the game's plot has its first major fork when the Resistance, seeking to turn the public to their favor, orders Denim and his party to engage in a false flag attack against a Wallister settlement. This leads to a series of other branches as the player decides whether to follow the path of law and with the Resistance, or chaos and forge their own path and seek to claim their own fate without following others necessarily. This makes for one of the things that made Tactics Ogre stand out at the time and still stand out today where tactical RPGs are concerned. The idea that in this game your actions have significant consequences and your choices will have repercussions long down the road. This can occur with static choices like choosing a path in a particular battle, for example, whether or not to participate in the massacre, or in terms of what party members live or die, just the general course of playing the game, or particular missions where you have an objective to save a particular person on the map. These choices can cut you off from side quests that can get you helpful weapons, armor, spells, other jobs, or alter the game's ending considerably, or even just incidental dialogue as well. Now, in the original version of the game on the Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1, this could lead to a considerable level of difficulty, and likely if you're playing this game on an emulator, a lot of save scumming. Or even just saving and reloading, just mashing the reset button, if the decision didn't quite go out the way you planned, or a particular important party member, or even a created hireling that you poured a bunch of resources into, kicked the bucket at an inopportune time. So, the PSP remake introduced a bunch of quality of life features to try and address some of this. The first one is the ability to rewind decisions in battle. This means if you are caught in a bad spot due to some inopportune decisions or just bad RNG, you can rewind and use different tactics to get through the fight. Considering that players on emulators on the Super Nintendo and PS1, as of when the PSP version came out, would likely be using save states at this point for the same effect, this is a pretty standard quality of life feature, and honestly, one more tactical RPGs need to use, so no complaints here. In fact, props for doing it, relatively speaking, so early. The other is the game doesn't up-level up characters, it levels up jobs or classes. Once you pick a job and use it in some battles with a character, that job will level up. Any new characters you recruit with that job or who you change to that job will have the level of that job. This also means that if your level 20 white mage recruit you've been joining since the start of the game gets dogpiled, you can get another white mage at the same level. On the other hand, though, if you're used to making really broken builds in, say, Final Fantasy Tactics of mixing and mashing abilities between jobs to make an alternate character, you can't do that here. The abilities that you can pick with your job points as you make your way through the game with the character, those are locked behind the classes. Now, there can certainly be a certain degree of overlap between the two, like Gunslinger might have range abilities or that sort of thing. But on the other hand, like if you want to make your archer also dip into spellcaster a little bit, no such luck. But this way this plays out in the game also has some weird quirks. For example, when you get a character in a new class, like Gunslinger or Pirate, you haven't had any time spent with that class previously, so that class starts at level 1. Which means that character, hit points wise and spell point wise, also starts with what they'd have at level 1. You could be 40 hours in the game with every character in your party at a minimum level of 20, and this class would still start at level 1. This means that you need to then find a bunch of random battles to deploy them in, find a place hopefully out of the line of fire to park them in so that they can gain a massive amount of XP from surviving the fight, all because the random encounters, and even some of the fixed encounters, scale to your party level. That said, if you aren't able to protect this character, they could then just kick the bucket, and not only would you lose a possibly story or side quest significant NPC, you'd also lose that job class, which is a pain. Now, the remake does fix this by having a ways for you to grind up your characters in a non-perilous manner outside of the main random encounters in the story, or story scripted encounters on the map, which I think is a better way to go, but something to keep in mind with this version. The other main quality of life feature is that this game gives you a timeline which shows you where your branching points are. Now, on your first playthrough, you cannot go back and change your mind and take a different route, but the game does in turn give you a New Game Plus option to then go through the timeline, branch the story, see how it plays out, and depending on how significant you find it, then go back and jump to another one or that sort of thing. It makes for a way that streamlines the process of going through the game for that New Game Plus to see the alternative content better, because it lets you jump right to those decision points. And I appreciate that. And also, like, honestly, having you play through it normally your first time, also I think is a point in the game's favor in terms of how this system is executed, because it does mean that you are getting, to a degree, that correct intent, or you're working with the designer's authorial intent of, you have made your choices, you now have to live with those repercussions in terms of the big brand strokes of how the game plans out, more or less. Now, some of these issues are fixed in the remake. In particular, the game does jettison the idea that all of the characters in the same job level up at once, right? Jobs level up rather than characters leveling up. Though admittedly, I have not played enough of that version of the game to say if they take advantage of this to let characters with jobs you have not previously encountered, like Pirate or Gunslinger, join the party at a higher level than 1. If they do, then that's a real point in the favor of the Switch and PC versions of the game, particularly since both of those now have ways to easily play them both handheld and on the go. Switch version on the Switch, and for the PC, you have using the Steam Deck or other similar device, handheld PC devices. To a certain degree, also with the PlayStation Portal as well. Don't know how well that works with cloud support with Xbox Game Pass Cloud, because they've started rolling out being able to play games you own. I don't know. Anyway, Um, that's a real point in that version's favor, because on the other hand, with the PSP version, it's only really playable handheld, or if you hook it up to, if you're not using emulation, um, you're playing it on the handheld device itself, or maybe hooking it up to your TV and possibly pairing controller do it, since you can do that. But otherwise, yeah. Um, I did definitely enjoy my time I spent playing with the game over the course of the Let's Play. Honestly, for all the games, if I don't enjoy a game I'm playing, I ultimately decide to drop it. And fortunately, I haven't had moments like that quite yet. Um, and frankly, I wouldn't have bought the remake if I hadn't. So I do recommend you pick it up, either for, again, like in particular this case, Switch or PC. I will have affiliate links in the show notes for where you can get it.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.